Welcome to the Signal Pres podcast.
Welcome to the Signal Pres podcast, the place for you to learn, to grow, and to get connected to the body of Christ here at Signal Pres. I am Joey Sherrod, one of your hosts.
And I am Abby Hutto. I am also one of your hosts.
And right now we're down in the studio, but what I am not sort of smelling is the smell of greenery wafting down here. I'm smelling, what kind of tea is that you got there?
I have ginger something or another, but it's in like one of those fancy like mesh bags, so it looks like potpourri. It looks like I'm drinking potpourri.
Oh, it's a little unsettling.
But it tastes real good.
It does smell good too.
It does.
It smells better than potpourri.
Mm-hmm. I really like ginger. I think it's delicious.
Yeah, it's good,
and that's like
good
a Christmassy like flavor, right? We put ginger in a lot of things at Christmas time. Bread mint.
Oh, yeah. Now I'm tracking.
Pumpkin bread. But I make that all the time, not just at Christmas. So
yeah.
Anyways, ginger. Ginger is the Christmas flavor.
Yeah, it is.
But I digress.
I think I digressed first. But yeah, we're still enjoying all things Advent. What a great time of year. What a great season. Great things that fill up our senses. Mm-hmm. Great songs that we get to sing. And great stories we get to tell.
Yes.
One of the things we were talking about earlier was the kind of the people whom like lead us through this season, like through the drama of their lives, like Ebenezer Scrooge or whatever. And so, Abby, who are the kind of people who come to mind for you? Who are like
my favorite Christmas movie characters?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Well, okay. So this might be controversial because it's not technically a Christmas movie, but I only ever watched it at Christmas. Is Little Women.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And every time like it comes out, it always like comes like when they do a new version, they always release it at Christmas. So other people must also think this is a Christmassy type of movie. Because I mean, some of it happens around Christmas in the movie. So
I feel like,
so Hannah and I watched that together. That's kind of one of our traditions is to watch Little Women. And I just love Jo March. She's just the best. She says wonderful, wonderful things. Like, I can't get over the inconvenience of being a girl. It's just fun to say.
Yeah.
She has so many like one-line zingers. But I love her spirit. And she's just fun to watch navigate the Civil War times of being a woman and wanting to be educated and wanting to educate other women and navigating life with her sisters. It's just a fun, heartwarming movie.
Yeah. Little Women, Louisa May Alcott.
Yes. And she also wrote Little Men, but no one's ever read that.
Am I right? Am I thinking right that that's kind of who she identifies with, like in the like?
Yes. So one of the more recent, like reiterations of, that's not the right word. I think it's iteration, but either way, they really do like link her as like the author, and she's like because they show a lot of the like getting the book published. And the fight, the struggle to be a female author in a time when women weren't really publishing under their own names. They were publishing under male names. And so it's fun. It's a really fun like entry into a historical time in our country, but also a historical time at Christmas because a lot of their events happen surrounding like Christmas with a dad who's at war and the poverty around them. Like there's a lot of like social issues that get brought up in that. So it's interesting. It's good. If you haven't watched it, you should. But I do like the so good. That's actually one of my favorites. So although I do really love the 90s version because that's the one I saw when I was in high school.
With Winona Ryder
and Christian Bale before he was Batman.
Yeah. I did not know that. Interesting.
Yeah, he plays Laurie.
Interesting.
So, what about you? What's one of your favorite Christmas characters?
Yeah, I just keep coming back to George Bailey from It's a Wonderful Life, and he is such a he's such a complicated. Like the more I watch that movie, the more I'm like, gosh, there is like the reason I can watch it every Christmas is there's just so much going on here that resonates with me, and he's a dreamer. He's an idealist. He's like extremely self-centered at times and blind to what is the goodness of his life. And he kind of goes on the kind of like narrative arc that I think the best stories tell us. It's like a journey of repentance for him. You know, like he is a good man who is not as good as he thinks he is.
He believes his own press a bit too much.
Yeah. He thinks he's sacrificed all these things and yet kind of sitting.
And really it's Mary who has sacrificed all those things too. And more.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that's such a great movie because like, if you probably watched it when you were little, like when you watch it when you're little and then you watch it as an adult, you get a completely different understanding of what's happening, and you identify with different characters. Like I loved like Clarence when I was little because he was funny and he was an angel trying to get his wings. But now as an adult, I'm like, bless George Bailey's heart, like bless Mary's heart. There's a lot happening in their stories. Like I just think it's the complexity of the characters actually is like one of those things that just stands the test of time. Yeah. So fun. Well, one other thing we talked about off air that we are bringing in is this idea of like so many of our Christmas characters have these complexities to them, and we love, we revisit these characters year after year during the holiday season. And a theme that often runs through many Christmas movies surrounds like royalty. And we are also avid Hallmark movie watchers at our house.
At your house.
At my house. Yeah. Not we as in you and me.
Yes,
we as in the Huttos.
It's not really at our house. I don't know. But tell us. Well, tell me.
I mean, because they're predictable. So you can have any of them on. You can walk out of the room and wrap like 5 presents, come back and be like, oh, I know exactly where we are, even if the whole movie is different, because they pretty much follow the same predictable yet comforting plot line. Yeah. But many of them surround royalty. So like I'm a baker and I go work in a kitchen in a castle, and some guy wanders in and starts eating cookies that I'm making, and we strike up a friendship. I come to find he's the heir of the kingdom. He's the prince undercover. Or the other version is like I'm in New York City and I meet this guy, probably also at my bakery. I fall in love with him only to find he's a royal prince on the other side of the pond. I go to his castle. There's all these like castles, royalty. We are as a culture just really captivated by royalty. Yeah. So why do you think that is? What is it about royalty that captures our imagination? Yeah.
For a country and a culture that spent a lot of energy getting away from royalty.
That's right. How ironic.
Yeah. I do think it taps into something really deep in us. There is a sense of like, I don't know, longing for like these kind of stories, this kind of person who has this kind of like mysterious authority that's given to them. I can remember as a kid, I loved the stories of King Arthur and those kind of tales of chivalry and it
would be interesting to see on like a pie chart, a pie graph, like how many of our stories that we collectively all know have to do with royalty. Because there is just something that we're intrigued by and curious about and keep coming back to, and we're drawn to. The wealth, the pomp, the circumstance, all the things that come with it. Yeah. I mean, I remember standing outside like Buckingham Palace, just being like, oh my gosh, I can't believe somebody lives there.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
So many good stories. Something like Lord of the Rings, at the beginning of Lord of the Rings, Strider is revealed later as a king. And so I think most Hallmark movies are really based off of the plot of Lord of the Rings.
I think they're all trying to be Lord of the Rings minus Gollum.
Exactly.
Gollum doesn't sell at Christmas.
He buys. Lots of us, our inner Gollum comes out at Christmas.
It needs it. It's precious. Yes,
guys,
that is how I
go ahead and hit the rewind button on your podcast and listen to that impression that Abby just gave us.
It's so true, though. Like, there is something in our hearts that's always looking for the hidden king, the one that will rise up and rescue us all.
That's right.
Just a very biblical longing. So talk to us a little bit about this week. Our psalm is a royal psalm. Psalm 45, and Joey taught us on Sunday in our Advent Together time, gave us some pointers for thinking about this psalm, but we'd love to think through this together. So what are some things that we learn about God, about ourselves, from Psalm 45?
Yeah, so when we talked about this on Sunday morning, one of the things I said is that Psalm 45 is an example of a category of psalms. So you could look in your Bible at Psalm 20, Psalm 21, Psalm 45, of course, Psalm 72. These are all sung to or about a king. And these would have been songs that were a part of the kind of the liturgy of corporate worship for Israel in their own time. And one of the things that we said then is this, like the benefit of spending some time on this and thinking about these psalms is kind of two for one. On the one hand, it allows us to kind of enter in with our hearts to the true meaning of the Christmas story, because, at the center of all the drama of the beginning of the New Testament is this question of like, is the king here? Mm-hmm. And that's what all the prophecy are about. So when Gabriel comes to Mary and tells her that she will give birth to a child, he says like he will have like the throne of his father David, which is a royal prophecy, that this thing promised in 2 Samuel 7, that like someone from the line of David will assume the throne and his kingdom will last forever. That's about to happen. Or when the Magi come to Herod and they say to him, we've seen in the stars that like the king of Israel has come. Herod knows this, this is disturbing to Herod. He thinks he's the king of Israel, but this drama at the beginning of Matthew's gospel is like, is the king here? And if so, who he is? And Matthew's gospel starts with a genealogy that says Jesus is the king. So one way to think about it is like, how do we sing songs where like we worship King Jesus? And there's this set of psalms and in the Bible, of which Psalm 45 is one. Second is that the kind of the bonus of this is that we know we're supposed to do this. When we look at these, we're like, what? Like you read Psalm 45, and I'm just guessing.
I'm gonna be honest. When we were divvying up Advent together, I was like, I'll do any of the Psalms but Psalm 45 because I don't understand it.
Right. Yeah. Yes, it's not intuitive to us, and so for those of us who feel called to make the Psalms a kind of a regular habit, it's great to just say, okay, what's going on in this Psalm, so we can make it a part of our. When we come to the Psalm, we're not like next, but like say how do we pray these prayers and sing these songs?
Yeah. So give us a little bit of guidance when we think through Psalm 45. What are some ways we can navigate what feels like a little bit of a confusing psalm?
Yeah. So as I kind of do my structure thing that we ask everybody to do, I'm just going to do it in the most simplistic terms, right? I'm just going to divide the psalm in half. In verses 1 through 9, we have this description of a king. And in verses 10 through 17, we have this basically invitation to respond to that. So I'll just take the first 10 verses. So as I'm reading the Bible, and I hear the word king in the Old Testament, I know that it's referring to something in its own time. And in here, it's probably a song that was sung at like a royal wedding, which we can all get behind, royal weddings, right?
We can. That's a whole section of Hallmark movies, just saying. That's how every royal Hallmark movie
and also
ends
Lord
with
of the
wedding.
Lord of the Ring ends with a royal wedding. Aragorn and Arwen. So it probably referred to that in its own time. But as I read with my New Testament eyes, like I think whenever I see king, the answer to who is the king who I'm really longing for and praying for, it's King Jesus. And one of the ways that we talked about this on Sunday morning was to say, we have this song that we sing in Christmas or in Advent, "Oh, come, let us adore him." But the question that's like beneath that is like, what am I adoring this king for? What am I adoring about this person? And Psalm 45 is an invitation to put some substance behind those words, right? And so it does in the rich imagery that the psalm gives us. It invites us to kind of give depth to our songs and prayers of adoration. And so when we think about these words, I mean, the invitation is really just to enter into them with our hearts in ways that might feel odd to us initially, but are good and true, right? So like you look at verse 2, this is talking about the king. Verse 1 says, I address my verses to the king. And then it says, verse 2, you are the most handsome of the sons of men. I mean, for me, that just on the most basic level, it's a reminder that Jesus is not just good, and the things that he says aren't just true, but like he is beautiful, And we think about, when we read the book of Revelation, it is so so intent to engage, like not just like our intellectual rationality, which it does engage that, but also like our affections when we think about Jesus. And so it portrays him as strong, as mighty, as powerful. It's meant to grab us. And, to think that, the person whom I worship, like, is someone who like stirs my affections in such a way that like he offers to really satisfy what it is that I long for most. I think that's a gift of beginning to say, like, yes, to be in the presence of Jesus is to be in the presence of one who is beautiful. And then it says, grace is poured upon your lips. It's an invitation again to think about Jesus's speech as gracious. And that was something, when you read the narratives of the Gospels, you read those and you see someone for whom, when like the poor and the vulnerable and those who are outcasts, like when they hear him speak to them, he always like has something to say to them that like is like speaks to like the deepest longings of their heart. So you think about like John 4, the woman on the well. He speaks to her in such a way that he's constantly drawing out her desires in such a way that like she's like, I don't know what you have, but I want more of that.
Yeah.
And that's when Jesus finishes the Sermon on the Mount, it says that like he spoke as one who has authority. People marveled at his teaching.
Yeah.
So they heard him speak and they were like, this teaching, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
Like the word for authority, excuse me, is literally the word like from the center of being, So like when Jesus speaks, I think about the words of Gerard Manley Hopkins in his like one of his poems where he talks about like the dearest freshness deep down things. Is this little line. Like that's kind of what Jesus like speaks to when we're like, gosh, like I wished it was always this way. So and then it goes on. There's some military imagery when it talks about girding your sword on your thigh, ride out victoriously for the cause of truth and meekness. Your arrows are sharp in the heart of the king's enemies. It's an invitation to just pray to a king who's strong. He's not weak, but he's powerful. But powerful for the right things. For truth and for meekness. And that means his power is like unopposed. He's able to overcome his enemies. And his kingdom is everlasting. Down to verse 6, your throne is forever and ever. The quality of his kingship is good. The scepter of your kingdom is a scepter of uprightness. You've loved righteousness and hated weakness. And so, yeah, I mean, and even then it just invites us, all of our senses, right? This invite our olfactory senses. Your robes are all fragrant with myrrh and aloes and cassia. And then even our hearing, from ivory palaces, stringed instruments make you glad. Like to be in the presence of Jesus, which is promised us as believers, is like to be in a place where like every single part of my experience of him is filled up with beauty. And I just think that's, and so it's an invitation to as we think about like, oh, come, let us adore him. Like, God, this is who I get. This is who I'm adoring. Yeah.
So the first half of this psalm is really an invitation for us to, with our imaginations enter into a courtroom, see a king who is powerful and beautiful and mighty to save, to be one who enters in with the throng of those who are celebrating him. And so like, I'm just curious, when we think about this as a practice, so like putting ourselves in a place where we're imagining Jesus as king, and a good king and a powerful king and a beautiful king, how does that change our experience of our everyday lives? Like, what's the invitation there? What's the benefit of doing this?
Yeah, I think that the invitation, I think the first thing that comes to mind is to say that like we are laying hold of by faith what will one day be sight. And so like often, like my experience of my day-to-day life is like an experience of Jesus's like unconsummated kingship, you know, like it's not yet here. And yet I know what it is currently behind the veil and what it one day will be in fullness. And so part of what I'm doing when I sing these songs is I'm walking by faith and reminding myself of who my king is before he returns and makes all things new. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts about that? Yeah.
I think, yes, because even as you were talking, like it just does invoke in us this like desire for what's coming, and in such a way that transforms how we live right now. So like, I do think about like the more that we meditate on the kingship of Jesus and that he truly is good and he truly is in control, then it almost like it breaks through the fog of my everyday like pain, loneliness, sadness, struggle, but even just like the boredom of everyday life of like, I get up every morning and I kind of just do the same thing every day, day in and day out. And breaking through that to open our eyes to see the greater reality that's coming, that gives us hope for why we do the same boring things that we've been called to do. Because most of that is just practical, everyday, faithful obedience to Christ. Yeah. I think for me, just I'm very visual and I love, like my imagination is very active and vivid. And so like having words on a page that escort me into a reality that I cannot yet see, but that is true. Like Revelation is crazy frightening in some places, but like when I'm not scared about the dragon or, the stuff that I don't really understand that's happening, underneath it is just such a comforting picture of like a king whose kingdom reigns and has no end. And that even though I can't see right now how these different parts of my life that hurt or don't make sense yet, or that I'm frustrated with. I mean, I love that we studied a psalm, or we read together a psalm of lament to say, how long? Because really what the how long is asking is, when will your kingship come so that your will is done on earth fully as it is fully done in heaven? There is this part of our hearts that longs to see with our eyes what we're holding on to with our hearts. And I love that the first half of this psalm is an invitation to see what is actually real, but may not feel real right now, that already and not yet tension that we live in. So I think that's helpful.
Yeah. I mean, as kind of what you were saying, particularly when you mentioned the book of Revelation, like I do think a great pairing of this psalm is with certain passages from the book of Revelation, like Revelation 4 and 5, or Revelation 19, 20, 21, where we kind of see these realities that, what Revelation does is, the angel says to John, like, come on up with me to the throne room. It looks like everything's falling apart. It looks like your friends are being persecuted. It looks like some of them are dying. But let me show you what's really happening, who's on the throne, and how he rules, and how good and beautiful he is. So.
Yeah, it's a helpful reminder.
So the psalm doesn't end at verse 10,
That's
9.
Right. So what is the second half of the psalm?
Yeah, and this is, the first part, that might not be like the most intuitive to us necessarily the first time we read it, but then we can be like, okay, yeah, King Jesus, okay, great. And then we get to verse 10, hear, O daughter, and consider, incline your ear, forget your people and your father's house, and the king will desire your beauty. And I can imagine for some of us, we're like, oh, I don't know how to do this.
And I'm out.
Yeah. But it's clearly inviting us into a marriage ceremony. In the same way that in the Old Testament, when we see a king, we know that it ultimately, in some form or fashion, points to King Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
When we see in the Old Testament a marriage, we know that it is, in some form or fashion, pointing to the marriage that is described at the end of the book of Revelation, in Revelation 19, and that is kind of explicated in Ephesians 5, when it says that what marriage between a man and a woman ultimately points to is Christ's relationship with his church.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that as New Testament people, when we read verses 10 through 17, like, we're invited to pray those and sing those, like, as people who belong to a church that is awaiting, like, our marriage to Jesus, our King. And so when it says things like, forget your people and your Father's house, I think part of what that's inviting us to do is to say to ourselves as the church, to do what is described about in marriage in Genesis 2. We leave behind, and we cleave to, like, our spiritual husband, Jesus. And as a church, we leave behind, the things that clamor for our affections and our and find that in Jesus, like, we belong to, like, a spouse who loves us, who has died for us, who honors us. I mean, who desires us, that he and his desire is something that, like, he bestows upon us, and then he is committed to making us worthy of that desire through his life and death and resurrection. And and it's just a song about, like, the thing that we're looking forward to, you know, the moment when, at the end of all things, when Jesus will be faithful to his promise to present us holy as his bride to our Father.
Yeah, and I think what that answers is that eternal longing of the heart for someone to look at us and to say, you're worth sacrificing for, you're worth pursuing, you're worth loving. And, whether we're married or not, that is a desire of every human heart. Every little child comes out of their mother's womb looking for a face that is adoring them, that is looking for their face and singing over them. And I think that's just such a beautiful image of what our Father does over us, that we are ushered into this life under his eternal smile and carried through life with his song singing over us, and that is what we are made for, which is why it is so very hard to have that not be the experience of our everyday life, to feel forgotten, to feel alone. I know we talk about this a lot amongst ourselves as staff members when we pray for our people, just that this time of year is hard because it is the time of year we want to gather with people who love us and who know us and who celebrate our presence in the room. And for many of us, that just is not the case on this side of heaven right now, and may not be until we enter the next part of our story. And so the loneliness that many of us feel during the Christmas season, I feel like is just so beautifully answered in this psalm, that there is one who looks at you and says, you are worth celebrating. You're worth wrapping presents for. You're worth making a tree beautiful for. You're worth cooking a fabulous meal for. You're worth all the things that are the efforts that we put into the holidays to celebrate the people we love. Like each of us is worth that to this one person. And his is the opinion that will last forever. So hope that's encouraging. I know that's encouraging to my heart as I think through. We all come with expectations into every season of life, but Christmas especially. That we're going to have these, wonderful times of connecting and knowing, and everyone's going to put their phone away, and we're all going to sit on the couch and cuddle, and none of us are going to complain. None of us are going to feel disappointed, and that is never the case.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
But those longings should not be stifled as, well, you shouldn't have wanted that anyways, but just recognized in their proper place. You were made for that. And that is how your Father sees you. And Jesus came to earth in order to make that your reality.
Yeah.
And that's eternal. And
Yeah.
you may not experience that right now, but you will one day.
Right.
So
Yeah,
it's a beautiful invitation, this psalm.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think as we close, I do think that is a great reminder about the gift of Psalm 45 for us as we think about the Advent season.
Mm-hmm.
There is the theological tradition we belong to often divides up how we think about the person and like the work of Christ, like who Jesus is.
Mm-hmm.
We think about like the work of Christ and the person of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
The work of Christ, we often talk about that. We talk about, the work of Christ is, he justifies us through his death. He adopts us as his, as his brothers, and we share in his sonship. He sanctifies us. One day he'll glorify us. And those things are great, like handholds for us as we think about who Jesus is, because they just remind us, okay, yeah, this has been done for me. This has been done for me. This has been done for me. You've worked these things. But sometimes what we do when we focus on those kind of things too much is we spend a lot of time thinking about like what we get from God. And we don't realize that like in the incarnation, what we get is just God himself. And so we think about the person of Christ as well. And that's what this season is about. It's about, not just about God doing something for us, which theoretically he could have done from heaven.
Yeah.
He could have just, moved the ledger around. I mean, not really. I mean, he had to come, right, to save us. But the way that he wrote the order of salvation and the beauty of his plan is that he came to us. And so like one of the things just to meditate on and to rejoice, and we sing these songs, that talk about these realities, even the song that we sang in worship on Sunday, let all mortal flesh keep silence, because this is an awesome thing that is happening. And our God like has come for us himself, like wants to meet us face to face. So it's one of the blessings of this Advent season is just to ponder that.
To appreciate the gifts we have been given, but to also find the heart of the giver to be very beautiful, and to spend time thinking about who he is. Because each of us, I mean, if such practical application for this, like if you give a gift to someone and they are so absorbed in the gift that they don't think to look at you and say thank you, we would feel sad about that. And yet that is what so often we do, is we're so consumed with the gifts and we never turn around and gaze at the giver and say, your heart is so beautiful. Thank you for who you are to me.
Yeah.
And even if I didn't get any of these gifts, you would still be beautiful and good. You're the gift. That's the encouragement for this season.
Absolutely.
And we have named the fact that there are things in our life that feels unresolved, and things that we are still waiting for the King to make right. And so there is an invitation this Sunday for anyone who is living in any part of their life with something that feels hard or unresolved, something that they're grieving, a loss that they have experienced. And it doesn't have to be like, oh, I lost a person this year. It could be like, I had this dream that I'm realizing is a disappointed hope. And I'm grieving the loss of that. I'm grieving the loss of a relationship. I'm grieving that life is not yet what it will one day be. And as I sit here in the darkness, that hurts. And so we have our longest night service is this Sunday at 5 p.m. in Mar Chapel. And that is a night where it is literally the longest day of the year. It lines up perfectly this year. December 21st is our longest night of the year. And this is traditionally a night that the church has set aside to let what hurts hurt and let it matter, because it matters. And to bring those things before a God who sees and who knows what hurt feels like. And to let that be enough to just sit in his presence with those things. And so it's really is such a beautiful service of contemplation and prayer and songs and communion. There's a homily as well. So it's a lovely night. So if you're able to come, we'd love to see you 5 p.m. Mar Chapel for our longest night service this Sunday.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that invitation is before you. Invitation, of course, also to join us on Christmas Eve as well. For our
4
service.
p.m., 7 p.m., 11 p.m. We're going to be here all night, guys.
That's right. Exactly.
Pick your time.
Yep. It's a wonderful time.
It really is. It's going to be fun.
Well, friends, thanks for listening again to us as well. And may the Lord be with you until we meet again.
That's right. Happy Advent.
Thanks for listening to the Signal Pres podcast. I want to thank our extensive production team, beginning with Matt Broom, sound man extraordinaire.
And thank you to Hannah Sutton and Jackie Carpenter for helping us out with all of our technical difficulties and making it possible for you to listen to this podcast.